the last talk of this slot. We still have 12 minutes to go. In my opinion, 12 minutes with a very interesting topic and a very interesting speaker. We have Sarik Weber on stage. Sarik is not just a serial entrepreneur, a private investor, but he's here because he's the CDO, the Chief Digital Officer of Ottobock, which is a medtech company. And in the next 12 minutes, he will tell us how a traditional global Medtech champion stays agile. So a very huge challenge for an old traditional company to survive and transform into the digital age. Please put your hands together for Sarik.
Thanks a lot, Ralph. After about 20 years of entrepreneurship, I switched sides about 15 months ago and joined Ottobock, and they created a new area, the digital office. It's quite a challenge. I also gave 2 talks at 12minutes.me, and the good news is they invited me back today. So let's jump into the topic. This is actually a 100-year-old company. Chancellor Merkel had to take the efforts to come to Duderstadt a few months ago, and we had the big celebration. So it's a 3rd generation family-owned business in the wonderful Südharz, but we also have the great locations in Berlin, in Vienna, in Austin, and Salt Lake City, among others. So this is all about the orthopedic industry. We are actually doing prosthesis, orthesis, and also wheelchairs. The company is quite big. We have grown to more than 7,000 employees and operate in more than 50 countries with 130 own patient care centers also. Yes, what do we do? As I said, orthesis, prosthetics, human mobility. These are the traditional areas of the company. Then we have the patient care centers, and we also since 2 years entered into passive exoskeletons. This is quite new for us. Lightweight exoskeletons where you have some support under the upper arm, and then when you work upwards you have less back pain and can work faster. So we sell this for the first time now to automotive and also Airbus and others. These are the core areas. We do interesting things like mechatronical knees, artificial feet, all the stuff you don't want, hopefully. But for the patients, of course, we keep them mobile. And the iFab part, I will tell you more about this. There's a big disruption going on because traditionally it was like a very craftsman-based industry. We were the orthopedic specialists are working with plaster models, plaster cast, and now it's shifting to scanning, modeling, and 3D printing. So this is what I more or less found when I started in May 2018. There were many good initiatives, many projects, lots of companies within the big Ottobock group already dealing with digital. We have activity trackers. This is an app. We have an academy portal. We have Pawlik in Traunstein. They are the leading company for orthoses for children. They do a lot of 3D printing. There are e-commerce platforms in the US, OPE, where 70% of our turnover in this market is happening. So lots of digital things, but we were lacking the real big impact. So we had to do a big study and first of all analyze what are we doing already and where are we doing this. And then we identified 20 business fields, and I said 20 is too much, so we stripped that down and clustered all these business fields into 4 areas. And we created 4 digital business models, which then make up our digital agenda, which is personalized OP, personalized orthotics, prosthetics, e-commerce platform, connected prosthetics, and connected orthotics. So these are our 4 focus areas where we cluster all the initiatives. And then we thought, how can we implement that? And what we did is we launched 4 internal startups, and then we created more than 70 jobs in these 4 startups. And then we had to do all these profiles for these jobs. And we looked outside of Ottobock and inside of Ottobock to do the stuffing. And the interesting part was that I thought probably we have to look elsewhere because we don't have these profiles. And so I said, okay, 50% maybe we get internally and 50% we have to cover. And the surprise was we covered 90% internally. So there were so many people already digitally capable that we could staff these startups with more than 65 people were coming from Ottobock. And then we set up these teams and we started early this year to launch them. So again, these 4 areas, I will go over this quickly. This is the learning, the e-learning part and the knowledge platform, which later on we integrated into this second digital business model, e-commerce. So, as I said before, what's happening is this is the traditional way of doing things in prosthetics, and this is the new way. And this, of course, for a small orthopedic shop, it's quite a challenge because you have to for instance, buy a 3D printer which could easily cost you 1 million euros. So most of small O&P shops can't do that. So therefore, we also grow into a service company where we set up these digital fabrication hubs, and then we offer 3D printing as a service. This is completely new for Ottobock. What are we doing differently within the startups? We have more or less self-organizing teams. We have one head of the internal startup and then the whole team. They are all cross-functional, so they come from the different areas of the company. And we need people that are kind of, they need to have an entrepreneurial mindset because it's a risk. They leave their own position, their old position, and they move into the startup, and the startup is for now set up for 2 years, so nobody knows what's happening afterwards. Well, you are familiar with most of this, digital mood boards, Jira, Trello is also coming into place, and this is all new for Ottobock. We did that, let's say, in software development. We also had agile working methods, but on a broader scale, cross-functional, this is quite new. So, yes, I talked about this. Let's move on. How could we convince people to move into the internal startups? So we gave them a return guarantee. So when they leave their old position within the first or second month, they notice this is not for me, they could go back to their old position. And that we also give them a guarantee after 2 years that they will not fall out of Ottobock. They will definitely have a position. So that was important. Of course, they have an exponential learning curve. We also hire service companies that help us to train the agile methods. It's a high visibility because in 4 years there are quite ambitious goals, so the board is watching us. So if you do a good job within the startups, you get higher visibility. This is just one example of the internal startups, how it's set up. You can see product management people, operations, R&D people, sales and marketing, CPOs, project management, and so on. We differentiate between the core team, you see in blue, the affinity team. These are dedicated resources from other departments. And then you have the temporary line support. This could be 20%, 40%, 60% of the time of these people. And overall, it's quite a big team. We have more than 40 people there. And we set that up in 3 months. So summing up, the internal startup is in the core of all these different daughter companies. We bought this company last year. I'm also managing director here. This is like software for orthotics. This is an R&D center in France. Here there's a 3D printing company. Here also, this is the R&D center in Berlin. And they were all kind of in silos. So they were like doing their thing, good projects, but not connected. So now the internal startup comes into place and connects all those. We also established an advisory board with line managers, so to keep closely aligned between the startup and the line organization. And then we also include external partners. So this is like the new ecosystem we are kind of creating. And yeah, for me, I've been building many companies. It's a big challenge to communicate this into the organization. So I joined we call it Betriebsversammlung in Duderstadt. I had to explain the digital agenda there. We are regularly publishing in the newsletter. We have to talk to all the members of the board. It's like a constant alignment. We have to talk to the stakeholders in the advisory board. So yeah, it's a very communicative task, and I think we are on our way. The battle is not won, but I think now Ottobock at least has entered the digital age. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarik, for all those very interesting insights. I think many corporates can learn a lot from that. Any questions from your side? Yeah.
Last row, sorry.
Oh, it's fine. At least you're not standing up and running away. So.
Maybe now.
Okay, thank you. Name is Stefan. This looks like the wet dream of every consultant. No worries, I'm a consultant myself, so what I'm interested in is how independent are the teams really? The heads of what can they decide? The bad word, governance or compliance. How you deal with that with your old structures? Can a head of one of these startups decide, okay, I make a hire of, I don't know, 60,000 a year, or can he decide to maybe buy software for 100,000? So just maybe you can give some insight on that.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. Of course, this is one of the challenges. How much responsibility do you really give the startup? The good thing is that we, this is all within business cases which are calculated. There's a budget for at least the first year, and within that area they can really operate. So that heads of the startups report to myself, and I leave them pretty much not alone, but I leave them lots of responsibilities.
Can you give us some insights there? So what is the typical budget of a startup for the first year then?
Well, I can't give you the exact budget. I can tell you we are investing in this a significant 8-digit number. So it's one of the areas where most investments are made.
In total, not for specific startups.
Yeah, but if you calculate 75 people already the wages. Another thing is, I can give you another example. We have these startups in 3 places, so Vienna, Duderstadt and Berlin. And we left it to them whether they want to be on campus, where Ottobock is, or they want to be in a separate building. So some opted for the separate building. We said, okay, you do that, and the other group said, we want to stay on campus. So
is
that
it 50-50?
these decisions,
Is it
yeah,
50-50?
50-50.
Ah, interesting.
I'm not sure if I completely got it right, but if I understood it correctly, Ottobock is basically having 2 categories. So like the traditional old organization as we speak,
Yeah.
and then new stuff with the startups.
Exactly, core business
Yeah.
is going on.
My question is it the plan to keep it that way, or are you also trying to infuse the transformation back into the into the old? And how is that working actually?
So I think that was good that we are operating in the 3 locations, and then we bet on spillover effects, that people in the traditional R&D organization, for instance, they see what we're doing, and now we have already some departments that start to work with agile methods. They do sprints and daily stand-ups and so on. So that there's a close relation. It's not like a new planet, which is like operating, here's Mars and here's Jupiter. So we have regular meetings with the heads, we have regular meetings with the board, so it's trying to not, because in the old organization, the danger was that the people that didn't join the startups, they could say, oh, now I'm in the boring old line organization, and they do the crazy stuff. So we had to avoid that too, this effect. So that's why we do learning camps together, why we invite them to our review sessions every 2 weeks. They can just come in and pop up. So really keep the communication flowing.
So I promised her the next question.
Thank you. So since you bought all the startups from just different parts, all being in healthcare, what do you think is the next big thing in 2 to 5 years?
Well, these we set up ourselves. The 4 internal ones we set up ourselves. Apart from that, there's an M&A department. We also buy 3 or 4 a year. I think these topics are focus topics, and if we come up, or if we, now the next step would be to establish an ecosystem how to interrelate with external startups. So this was like the first phase where we say, okay, now we organize our digital business models. And the next challenge would be to see how can we cooperate, how can we bring in talent, how can we be part of the ecosystem, learn from each other. And I think in Berlin we have these wonderful, we have the Science Center, we have the Bötzow Brewery, and we have lots of space. And so now we will, until fall, we will come up with a concept there.
Do you have a question?
I know that Airbus, for example, also has these same structures of this maker space where they kind of grow their own ideas, and then the Biz Lab, which is specifically for startup ideas that should make revenue. Do you communicate with other companies and share ideas, or is it only like your internal experiment?
No, this is, I mean, last year I was not very visible because I had to do all this with the team and some help. And now I'm also telling how we do it, and that's of course with the intention of connecting more. I have close relations to pioneers in Vienna, for instance. They have also a health pioneers part. And we go more to conferences, and we want to invite people to come to Ottobock Berlin, because we have also for events and so on, we have wonderful space there. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. I think we can put our hands together for next applause for Sarik, and you will receive a red one.